In this video, I want to talk to you about how you can become attractive AF. I'm not going to swear, but specifically how you can become more attractive in your personal life, your professional life, whether that's, if you're watching my channel because you're a coach or you want to start out as a coach and you want to build a coaching practice. I want to kind of share with you some really things that are really common sense, but maybe perhaps are uncommon in practice when it comes to being more attractive, attracting more of what you want into your life. Now, the first thing that we've got to kind of deal with and talk about and get out of the way is the elephant in the room. One of the biggest blind spots that I've had in the past, and maybe still subconsciously have in some areas of my life when it comes to attracting, is the more you're trying to get something, like when your energy is like in a get frequency, the universe, whether you're a believer in that or not, what we're ultimately talking about here is like the energy that's being transmitted around the world feels that, right? So let's say you're not an energy person. Let me put it another way. I often have these debates with people about energy who say they don't believe in energy and the law of attraction and the universe. And I say, there's some nice Bluetooth headphones you've got there, which in effect is a completely invisible wireless technology that we all assume works, right? Anyway, that's just me on my soapbox about energy. But one of the biggest lessons I've had, especially around my coaching business, my coaching journey, many of you may know my story, but without going into the details, when COVID happened, my business kind of closed down. I was doing events in person all around the country, the United Kingdom. And financially, I was okay. I was okay to kind of get through a few months of COVID, but definitely not for as long as it then obviously turned out to be. But what was really interesting is I made a decision to make myself useful during COVID and start coaching. And by that, what I mean is get back to what I used to do in the very beginning of my coaching journey. See, I'm just navigating my way through these bushes. I don't want to fall over. And I started offering myself out, pimping myself out with my coaching. And I was literally doing like 5, 6, 7 calls a day. And within, I think, like 90 days, I've got like 38 clients or something. And eventually, when the world kind of reopened, and I wanted to go back to my proper business, not like coaching wasn't my proper business, but my coach training company, I realized I didn't have the time to fulfill all those people. So I had to kind of scale them into a group program or even maybe just finish kind of working with them all together, right? And the point being is that it was really easy for me to attract so many clients in such a short period of time. And fundamentally it was because I didn't need them. Because I already had income, I didn't need them. So one of the things I always say to coaches is, I'm just going to swap arms, is like, if you need income, then I highly recommend you go and get income from something like a job, something that you're not emotionally, energetically pulled to. Because if you need income from your clients and you're kind of serving from a state of desperation, like if this next person doesn't buy, I'm not going to be able to pay my rent or pay for food shopping. That's not a good energy. It's not fair on the prospect, and it definitely isn't fair on you. And if I go a bit deeper on this whole neediness thing, because like what I've just shared with you is like pretty surface level, is that you've really got to go back. If this is resonating, you've really got to go back to the source of where this all starts from. So for me, it starts from a dad not being present and a mum being emotionally unavailable because of her own stuff, right? She didn't have emotionally grounded, emotionally regulated present parents. She also came from a different era, a different generation, an Afro-Caribbean era. Her mum wasn't there. Her mum left her dad when she was very young. So my mum was raised by a masculine man who was Afro-Caribbean. And if you know anything about that culture, he in and of himself didn't know how to nurture. Like, he was very high masculine energy and not very feminine. And so as a result, my mum has always been and still is very, very masculine. And because she was so masculine, that made me very feminine. And because I was almost like her, you could say her wife, and she was my husband, I was just kind of this nice kind of pleaser boy who basically would do anything I could to get my mum to like me, validate me, approve of me, etc. And because my mum hadn't had the, you could say, quote unquote, training from her own parents, one being absent and the other not knowing how to do that, obviously then my mum didn't pass it on to me. And I believe we're, in a very, very lucky, fortunate time. I feel very blessed that these things I used to complain about, I now realize I can, and you and I can, go on YouTube and go to some workshops and seminars and deal with this stuff and handle this stuff, and by the click of a button get some therapy and deal with this stuff in the way that maybe it just wasn't so accessible way back when, right? But the bottom line is this, right? If you want to know what I believe is the key to becoming attractive at AF, is fundamentally it's down to two things. One, you've got to recognize that you're being needy. So the first thing for me is I had to recognize that there was a neediness, and I had to own that and take responsibility for that. And that was probably the hardest bit, becoming aware of a blind spot, because I know I've still got them, and if you're honest with yourself, maybe you've got them too. And being aware of blind spots, like I remember years ago, I was like, yeah, my mindset's really good, I've got all that figured out. Oh, how wrong was I? How wrong was I? And there were certain elements of it where I was, but there were certain elements of it where I was definitely not. And so the first step is awareness. And then the second step isn't actually about stopping needing validation and approval. Because, according to Tony Robbins, we all have 6 human needs. And one of those needs, you may have seen me talk about this a lot in a previous video, is significance. And I used to make that wrong. When I first had this awareness, this realization, I was like, oh, I'm just gonna not seek any validation approval from anyone ever. And I realized that that's a need. I can't suppress that, right? So then that just made me like angry and bitter, and made my relationships with myself and other people like even worse. It was terrible. But once I accepted that that was a need, and I started to like say it, like for example, I'm in a men's group, and one of the things we do in the men's group is we often say, what are your needs? And I can sometimes say in the group, I feel like I just need to be heard. And that's all I ever wanted when I was a child, and that's all the inner child ever wants, is to be seen and to be heard, right? The problem is in adult life, that doesn't really go very well, because we're not in a kind of like in a classroom with a teacher who kind of can give everybody a little bit of, oh, let's give you some attention, let's give you a gold star, let's give you, like, it doesn't kind of work like that, right? So the way that I found to deal with this validation piece, and it's really the only way I've ever found has worked, is you've got to validate yourself. You have to learn and start to intentionally validate yourself. Now, what does that look like? Well, what that looks like is you've got to start sitting down and journaling and thinking about and writing about, and I recommend initially on a daily basis, all the things about yourself that you're proud of. All the ways you've grown, all the ways that you've improved, who you are as a person, your character. And you've really got to, not in a comparison way, but you've really got to spend time thinking about, musing about, journaling about all the things that are great about you, and not like, even not spending a huge amount of time on the external accomplishments, but actually on the effort you're putting in. Like for example, one of the things I'm becoming much better at is detaching from outcome. So like this video, when I finish this video, I'll do like a little mini celebration, because one of the things that I recognize that I've needed to do is over the years is for me to have more motivation, is to integrate my wins. So when I finish this video, I'll give myself a little kind of metaphorical gold star, right? Because in and of itself, I feel as I'm doing this video, it feels good. It feels like I'm adding value in some way, and whoever sees it, doesn't matter who sees it, but not only does it feel like a bit of a mini therapy session for me, I know that if you're watching this video, my belief is something will hopefully land and resonate and will serve you, and then maybe might even change your perspective to such an extent that it completely changes your whole day, and then that maybe changes your whole week and your whole month, and maybe perhaps changes in a good way. I hate the cliche change your life, right? But you know what I mean by that. This video is not going to change your life, but applying what's in this video might, right? You know, this is really important that you know that knowledge is not power unless it's applied. So if you actually are a person that is aware that you have a high need for validation and approval, and you spend the next 365 days, every day, spending 5 minutes a day, just writing down all the things that are great about you, I believe that'll have a powerful impact on your life, huge. And then that will make you more attractive, because the need for significance, you'll be giving it to yourself, you'll be giving it to your own inner child. And then as a result, when you're going out into the world, looking at opportunities and collaborations and coaching, if that's what you're doing, then you'll be doing it less from a place of need, because it'll be more about serving and contribution and connection and love, rather than needing people to like you, validate you, etc. Anyway, hope you found this video useful. Love to know your thoughts and your comments. Always welcome, appreciated. I love a conversation about this, because here's what I believe. Everything I've said in this video is neither true nor false. It's just my belief. It's just my interpretation of how I see the world. And I love having dialogue about these things. So feel free to share your thoughts somewhere below. Anyway, that's it from now. I'm going to go and finish my sort of jog. See you soon. Peace out.